we have Donna James, nutritionist, with us. When I thought of who to bring in for body image and manifesting weight, I just could not think of a more perfect person who overlaps so much of the same of my thought process and what I teach. And I was fortunate enough to have a session with you, and it was so powerful because you gave me such a missing piece. So when Donna ran through our session, it wasn't like, how are you eating? It was like, give me your childhood. Let's talk about everything. And I was like, oh, I'm really in to this woman. So let's start with the first question. How did you come into sort of discovering the archetypes? And then can you give each archetype in a nutshell?
After about 6 months of being in practice, I realized I hit a wall. I hit a limit. There was only so much that I could actually do on the physical side. And so if I wanted to keep seeing success with my clients, I realized that it came here. And the very first experience I had was with a woman who is about 55 years old. She was coming to me to lose weight for her upcoming wedding.
This is my favorite, because I asked Donna, I said, Donna, for me to really make this shift in my life, can you tell me 3 expanders? And she told me this one, and I was like, oh, I can do this.
She was an oncologist. So every day she's seeing breast cancer patients, and she was so ashamed of having breast cancer herself that she didn't even put it on her intake form for me. So, that's the first little piece for me of how shame can actually influence the physical body.
So could you tell me how you started to notice the patterning with each types and what each type sort of means?
So there's 4 archetypes. There's the Wonder Woman, the Nurturer, the Femme Fatale, and the Ethereal. And in functional medicine, we're very much aware of how certain hormones influence the body type. So with the Wonder Woman, her self-worth is based on success and achievement. What's the dominant hormone that comes into play? It's cortisol, right? If it's all about success and achievement and you're worthy, if you are powerful and an influencer, then you're going to push. Right? So with cortisol, the physical effect of that on the body is you store it on the abdominal area. I was just able to link the two. It was like, okay, well, let's go all the way back to understand why this person has these elevated levels of cortisol. And then it was here back in childhood that there's some type of imprint that was created, which you're very familiar with. Okay?
Totally.
So that's the Wonder One.
Yeah.
The Nurturer is the self-worth comes from compassion and caring for others and always being there. And we can go into why these develop if you want to. I think it's an interesting topic.
I think people will really benefit.
and so really beautiful, wonderful trait. But when they're out of balance, it's give, right? And can become very people pleasing and always putting others before herself. And so this leads to a lot of comfort eating, actually, because no one's going to take care of her. And then there's a rise in insulin levels. And insulin is the body's primary fat storage hormone. And when the insulin levels are elevated, you store body fat everywhere. The greatest gift she can give herself is to start to receive again. And the ethereal body type is more like you. It's long and lean. And so they have more sort of elongated muscles. And when they store body fat, it's like a little thin layer everywhere. So the typical ethereal, if you think like the little skinny little vegan girls who are like a little floaty and out. Totally. So very airy.
Totally.
So the ethereal, the self-worth tends to be based on how intuitive is she and how different is she. And so the femme fatale gets her self-worth from physical appearance. And that's a hard place to be.
I think every woman suffers from this, but I know exactly the woman you're talking about. Yes. It's so much more sufferable.
So because culturally there is a fixation on a woman's body, if it's not her dominant archetype, it's often her overlay. And there's really positive attributes that come from the femme fatale as well. So the positive is she's like very sensual and captivating. The negative, she's very resourceful and can be very manipulative when she wants to get her own way. As women, like as mothers, we get really concerned about like giving our daughters compliments on their looks. And I'm going to say to you, give them compliments on their looks.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it will be a wound for them. And so it's not just the focus on the looks, it's on all aspects.
All of it, yeah.
Right? On them being different and intuitive and smart and funny and unique and pretty. Like, give it to them all. Encourage her to be expressive and open about what is going on and to share things. That is the best thing that you can have them do. Because it's in the shame that
Always.
we learn to hide.
Yeah.
And so self-worth and shame are one and the same. They have the opposite side of the same coin.
Totally. It's
Which
your
you and
shadow.
I talk about. And so the self-worth piece is just the adaptive coping strategy to that shame.
Absolutely.
So just share it and like really encourage them to share it.